On the Facebook for Jewel School, you're watching on jtv.com/extra, or you're watching the replay that's been shared to one of the Bead Snob social media places. Today we're going to be talking about rose quartz. I'm super excited because we have these absolutely ridiculously awesome ovally nuggets. They're fabulous. They're absolutely fabulous. We've got some other rose quartz as well. We're going to have a couple of demos. We're going to talk about doing an infinity necklace, right? Like a claspless necklace, and also how you do an east-west kind of thing, right? So if you have an oval, it doesn't always need to be the long way. It can be this way. And that can be a really fun way to give a little bit of extra design something. If you are watching live, I would love to hear from you. Give me a hey, let me know who you are, what you're working on right now. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Right? Part of the reason that we get to do this live is so that we can have questions, comments, concerns, feedback, requests. If you need me to go back, do a thing again, or if I've totally glossed over something relevant, like this is our time to create the kind of interactive, beady experience that we want to have. So this particular strand of rose quartz came from John Papajohn. So if you are a Jewel School aficionado, you have met him, you've seen emeralds from him, you've seen tourmalines from him, you've seen aquamarine from him, you've probably seen like a really awesome Honduran black opal. The thing that I really love about his products is he is the only person I know of in the bead space who is truly a... Hi, Puddin's interrupted my spiel. So he's the only person that I know of and that I've had the opportunity to interact with in the bead space who is going out into the mines, doing the actual mining, right? Like scouting the facilities, going into the bush, getting the mining operation set up, helping to get the rough out of the ground and into a production facility, and then finally showing up at JTV with, hey, this is what I've done. Very similar to how, you know, when we talk to Jaimeen, and he's saying, yeah, I spent time in a tanzanite mine. Like, I know what that's like. I know what's going on there. The really cool extra kind of layer that we get with the things that we get from John Papajohn are that he's gone and scouted these mining locations, right? They've gone from a whisper and a wink to a, hey, we know where this is, and then you get to go and do that. So really excited about these. This is a 24-inch strand, right? So this is not your average bead strand. It is not just an insane awesome color for rose quartz and really great quality. It's also a 24-inch strand, which means, ooh, not that this is the recommended, you should put a clasp on it and not do this and wear it around like this, but isn't this just, yeah, it's super fun. I am actually going to flip us around in a second and we're gonna get into tutorial time. I am going to put this on hold. So I'm going to pause the show. I'm going to reorient my camera and then restart the show. I am coming back. In the event that I accidentally don't do that reorientation right, I will work with producer Caitlin to try and get things back up and running as soon as possible. So get ready to click back in again. But fingers crossed, we won't have any technical difficulties. One moment, please. Or anything like that. So here's another view of the rose quartz ovals. But now my neck is feeling very sad that it's not in there anymore, but that's okay. I have knotted up these nifty little 4mm rounds, and I am loving the whole no clasp thing. But if I want to do the no clasp thing and I want to knot it, things get a little bit tricky. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've very much followed the large knot trend. So this is a 4mm on a size 8 griffin. So our knots are pronounced, right? Which is absolutely 100% a valid style choice and one that a couple of really big LA designers are starting to utilize pretty heavily, as well as a couple of French designers that I really like. And so it's fun to be able to include that. So I've got my 4mm beads here. I used about 1.25 strands to make this necklace. And then I've got one of my larger beads right here. And I did ream this using a bead reamer so that I had enough space to come through both sides. Now to finish it up, I want to make sure that I've got, right, this is going to give me way too much space and slack when I tie my knot, so I'm going to tighten that up just a smidge. And then I'm going to come in. And one of the things that I have discovered with this whole situation when I'm trying to knot and keep tension and preserve space is I want to go slowly, and I don't want to fully secure my knot, right? Normally when we're knotting, I'm going, oh yeah, I'm gonna commit and I'm gonna do that. Well, if I do that, it's gonna be a pain in the tushy to undo it if there's issues. So I'm just kind of marking it through right here, and I'm checking to make sure that I've got space right here. This gives me the opportunity to go back and do a redo if I don't nail it on either one of these. So then I'm coming through with my other side and around. I'm coming through, and then same thing here. I don't need to fully make sure that this is the most knottiest knot that has ever knotted. I am just making sure that I'm filling my space, and now I can pull, 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 and kind of check that, weasel there, and give it another check. Pull, pull, pull. Yay! And now I'm ready to add my glue. I'm gonna give it one more tug because it's bugging me. There we go. So now I'm ready to give it a little bit of glue and cut. What I'm going to do, because I am excited to put this on right away and show it to you guys by the end of the show, is I am going to not glue it now. But what I am going to do is I'm going to cut. And since I am not gluing it, my friends, I want to make sure that there is slack. There's a reason we do 2 knots and not 1. That is because if we have slack in the knot or any chance for sort of tension to start pulling on it, what's going to happen as soon as, oops, there we go. As soon as I get on it, see how we're already starting to eat into our little tails there? Frequently when we have slip through in our knotting projects, that's why. So that's why we have knots on both sides. We have glue. And if we have not glued, my friends, we have added a little bit of extra space. So I'm going to show you the set that these guys came from. So this is from a set that's 4mm and 6mm rounds, and it's a strand of 4 of each. So it is a ton of bang for your beading buck. So you can see where I used a partial strand, right? So this is the 6mm right here, right? Like, look at what great color that is. And then we have our 4mm. The really cool thing about this is that because it is so translucent, we have the opportunity to let it take in some different colors. So you can see what happens. You know, we've got it here on this really wonderful, bright neon hot pink. Here, we're seeing it on more of a rose. Here, I started knotting it on a lilac. And now it almost looks, right? Isn't that just a night and day difference? It's the same stone, but now it's starting to take on more of those tones of kunzite. So really, really fun thing with rose quartz is, especially when it's light like this, it kind of starts to function as a neutral for you, which is real fun. Let's see. Oh, I don't think I was going to try and weasel my super amazing ovals off without setting these down, but I don't think I can do it. Okay. So we're going to get these guys out and about, and we're going to do a little chatting here about how we use rose quartz. I don't know about you, but for me, for the longest time, I sort of said, okay, well, rose quartz is great. It's this stone of unconditional love. It's beautiful. That's great, right? But it's just pale pink, and so I can only do the things that I would want to do with pale pink with this. I am going to, I don't know, just stick with other pastels and yeah. No. Shenanigans, my friends. The colors that we have in rose quartz are the same pinks that we get in other gemstone types, right? This is morganite, right? So this has now made me realize, like, okay, my rose quartz is essentially a more affordable morganite. This is a bonkers expensive strand of Afghan tourmaline. Right here, again, we are a dead ringer in terms of color for the Afghan tourmaline that is, yeah, expensive. As we look at this higher end strand that is, I mean, really the exception on rose quartz and highly collectible in its own right. But if you are needing some justification for why you need a particularly luscious rose quartz strand, this is the rose quartz next to pink sapphire, right? So here's rose quartz, here's pink sapphire. Here's rose quartz, here's like light peachy pink tourmaline shades. Here's rose quartz, here's pink spinel. So we're seeing these really, really high-end stone types getting echoed in color across these super luxe nugget oval. I don't think it's fair to call them a nugget, because when I think of a nugget, I think that a nugget is irregularly shaped. To me, these are an organic oval. And so the way that I want to design with them is I want to treat them like they are an organic oval. And obviously we can absolutely, plunk them on a head pin, make a dangle earring, call it a day. For those of us who are at a point in our gemstone and designing journey where we're wanting to add a little more oomph, we can contemplate a lot of different design options. And one of them is sort of emulating the east-west setting, right? So if we're on a ring, this is how we traditionally do it. And then the east-west, that's a total fail-in angle. And your east-west would be this way. The same thing can be true of our earrings. So I have these guys started out. Now I'm going to lead off by saying this is not that rose quartz. Boy, do I wish it was, because this is really pretty, but it is not that intensely colored, and I do feel like the earring design isn't the better for it. Now, if I am going to want to make this start to finish, I'm going to need my oval bead, and I need a piece of wire. Now, for the design that I just showed you, I used a 26 gauge to go through, and I used a yellow gold fill. Because we are on camera and we need to be able to see what we're doing, this is a 24 gauge wire, and this is just I think it's a vintage bronze para wire, because it's gonna make our life a lot easier to see since I don't have a camera person to do a zooming for me. Since our oval isn't going to be bearing weight in the loops, we don't need to do a wrapped loop here. So this is a great project for you if you are looking for an earring design that doesn't have a ton of different wrapped loops. I ultimately will include a wrapped loop in this, but the cool thing about it is it can be kind of a more organic one. So I'm going to start by just making my first loop. And because I am not trying to make my perfect right angle-y loop, I'm just going to go in, I'm going to take kind of towards the tip of my round nose pliers, right where it's smaller, because I want a little bitty, and I'm going to roll and roll, right? This is not the way we get a perfect right angle loop, but it is the way that we can get things ship shape without going in there. And then I'm actually just going to go and squeeze. I'm going to try and get it in focus for you first. In focus for you first. There we go. And close that loop up. So then on my reverse side, in order to start getting an idea of how much space I need, I'm just going to bend it. I am going to do my right angle thing here. Let's see. I'm going to come in, give it a little snip. So I've got this teeny itty bitty space, because again, we don't need to make a perfect loop. Because no, the idea is if we do this subtly enough, no one's going to see it. Let's see. As I lose my grip on it. Speaking of people not seeing it, apparently I can't either. Let's see. 1 second. Come in. There we go. I'm going to come in. And you can see how this is kind of, under normal circumstances, we go, oh man, I can't work with this. It's too small. all we need to be able to do is get a 26 gauge wire through it. So we're going to come in and tighten that up. So now I have my little component. I have my very obvious sides, and I can come in, and if I want to embellish it, I've got these are just a mix of, 2 and 3 millimeter beads that are kind of hanging out in my stash. I preloaded my wire and did a couple little loops on the end because there are few things in the world more exasperating than having all of your beads strung up and then dropping them, right? In this case, they've survived the fall. What I'm going to do to get this on, and we're just kind of marking this through here, and you'll get an idea of where we're going with it. I am just going to go through and cut this, and since I use gold fill wire, I'm going to set it aside. Like we often talk about how, working with gold fill and sterling is expensive. We save our scraps. And got my little bit of wire here. Oops. Get it in focus. I'm chasing the loop. There we go. And so now I've got an idea. Let's see. There we go. So now I've got an idea of where I want to bring up my extra beads and start moving around. Now, because I sort of just preloaded all of this, under normal circumstances, I would have only done about half of this. I would have cut this piece before and then just had it ready to go and preloaded beforehand and then strung it all right on so that it gets us to the point, whoops, when everything is said and done, we've got our little loops here and we've got our top piece here. Now I have these two little tails, and I could go and fight the good fight and try to crisscross these and brace them and make sure I don't lose the shape. And that is a choice. It is not the choice that I am going to make. Instead, I'm going to be working with both tails at the same time. And hey, it looks like a couple more friends have joined us. Hi, I'm Erin. This is the Thursday Designer Showcase. We are talking about rose quartz today. And yeah, so give me a shout out, tell me hello, by all means chat away, questions, comments, concerns, requests. So we're getting back into, okay, I've got my two little wire tails. I am going to be going for real pretty loops on this one. I am holding with my chain nose pliers gently so as not to mar my wire because I am using a fine gauge wire, 26 gauge, and it is a soft wire, both because that is the temper that I chose and because that is sort of the nature of gold fill. I'm going to make sure this is in focus, I tell ya. All right, so I've got my two pieces together and I kind of mangled them a little bit as I was coming in and trying to get everything to focus. So apologies for that, friends, but I think we can still make this work. So I'm going to bring them together. I have both tails this way, and I'm going to flip them over the top. I am holding lightly with my round nose. And I've flipped my grip. And this is where we frequently find ourselves wanting to really grip heavily. And since we have a place where it's holding, right, so it's bigger here and we're going to get more grip there, we want to hold very lightly so we don't mar our wire. Oops. There we go. We're flipping around. And so we've got this first start to our loop. I'm going to keep this in place and I am holding it gently, right? 26 gauge wire is soft, which means that it's easy for me to bend. I don't need to use all of my muscles to wrap it around. And just to see what happens, I'm going to keep using all this tail up as far as I can to see what happens if we get kind of a more pronounced wrap at the top. And I want to have enough to hold on to comfortably, so I'm leaving it, I think, a little more slack than I ordinarily would. I'm coming in with my side cutter. I am keeping the flat side of my side cutter to my piece. If I come in with the flat side towards me, I'm not going to get as close of a cut. So my flat side is right up against my work, and I snip. Take my wire scraps and save them because they're gold fill. And I'm going to give this just a little finger check. First of all, visually, I don't know if you can see, we've got some wire sticking out. And two, sometimes our fingers are more sensitive than our eyes. So our life is going to be better if we give it a little, hey, is this catching? I felt it catch on my fingers. So that means gently, 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 I'm coming in and making sure that everything is smooth and fabulous. So can you just imagine how stinking magical this design would look if we had a little more, if we had the saturation of this really, really incredible, incredible stuff going on right now. I'm going to flip the camera around and do the grand reveal on our long necklace. So hold for 1 second. We're going to do the magical camera reorientation. I will be right back. Sneaky the peak of the fabulous Minneapolis blizzard that we've got going on right now, but I felt like if I don't want to see it, you probably don't either. Any of my friends who are hanging in the Midwest, you know what I'm talking about. It wasn't that bad. So this is my super awesome 4mm pronounced knot necklace, no clasp. Oh, that looks really nice. And then we can add the 24-inch Madagascan. By the way, on the 24-inch Madagascan, super, super limited quantities on these. Caitlin, can I get you to put the link up for those? If you want, if you are a friend who really, really likes the nicer stuff, I can't recommend these enough. I think the price on them is really good for a rare, and again, it's artisan mind, right? Like it's a full level of supply chain transparency that you get on this higher end Madagascan rose quartz. So if you are someone who the disclosure of treatments and knowing where it comes from and how it came to be there and how it got to your hot little hands is important to you, the Madagascan is unmissable. And then here, let's see. Whee! So really, really fun show with everyone. Oh, I feel like a pretty princess. It has been an absolute blast to take a little bit of time on this snowy Minnesotan day and check in with you on rose quartz, project, knotting, east-west orientation. And please, 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 if you have questions, comments, concerns, requests, you can reach out to me. The best way to do that is through Instagram at bead.snob or Facebook at beadsnob. And let's talk, because I get to talk a lot with the fabulous show planners and merchandising teams over at JTV to create the kind of projects and tutorials and educations that you want. And obviously I'm going to be bringing my flair to it, but I'd love for us to be able to build this together. I will see you next Thursday. I think we're kicking off March with Aquamarine is what my understanding is. So I will see you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern for the designer showcase.